Hey, everybody. Welcome to the webinar Boost Your Boundaries and Elevate Your Style. Scarlett and I teamed up to do this because we both have known each other for a very long time. And we just one day said, it'd be so much fun to do a webinar where we both highlight the skills that we bring to the table. I've worked with Scarlett myself as my personal stylist. I've recommended her to many of my clients, and yeah, so that's why we're doing this webinar. So we're going to go for about an hour. Stay on later if we go a little bit late. We have a little bit of flexibility, so stay on till the end because we're both offering some free gifts, and we are going to do some live coaching. Scarlett, did you want to just introduce me? You're muted.
No, I'm
Oh,
not.
no, you're not. Okay.
My apologies. So, Sandy Weiner is the Chief Love Officer at Last First Date. She's an internationally known TEDx speaker, a dating and relationship coach, an author, and a podcast host. Her approach to coaching is holistic, encompassing, and a hybrid mix of life coaching, neurolinguistic programming, and nonviolent communication. She's also the author of Becoming a Woman of Value, How to Thrive in Life and Love, and Choice Points in Dating, Empowering Women to Make Healthier Decisions in Love. She's also the host, I don't know how she has time for us, of two popular podcasts, Last First Date Radio and the Woman of Value podcast. And she believes it's never too late to have this life and the love you want. What you wear and how it makes you, oh, that's it. I added up something else there, but there you go. Sandy, thank you for having the time to do this.
Thank you, Scarlett. Scarlett's awesome, and you're going to be hearing from her in the second half. So let's discuss boundaries. Before I get into the whole boundary thing, I became a boundary expert because my boundaries were terrible. I realized after my divorce, especially, that the biggest area that I needed to work on were boundaries and communication. And so I want to share a quick story about when I finally started to set boundaries. I was married. I'm now divorced, but my husband fell asleep every night before the kids fell asleep. And it used to drive me crazy. And I would tell him, I want you to stay up and read books to the kids and help with bedtime. And he'd just go, I'm so tired. Now, he ran his own company and he made his own hours. So it was really up to him to decide, am I going to stay up or not? Because he would leave the house at like 4 o'clock in the morning and then fall asleep by 6. So I was beating my head against a wall until I realized, hey, if I'm not available, he's going to have to stay up. And so I started taking a bath at the kids' bedtime. And I just locked the door. It was the only door in the entire house that had locks. And I would bring my book in there and light candles and have my happy place. And I'd say, oops, got to take a bath. And suddenly he was awake. And that's how I changed bedtime. Now, if you notice that this was not about me forcing him, by trying to force him, nothing happened. But by saying, I'm taking a bath and not being available, he stepped up. And so that's a little indication of what boundaries are. I think boundaries are very misunderstood. So I'm going to give you my explanation of boundaries. They are the borders that we place around ourselves to protect our energy, our health, our emotional safety, and our relationships. I like to think of them as a velvet rope, like those stanchions that you find at movie theaters and theaters where you open the rope to let people in and you close the rope to let people out. And so but it's soft, it's velvet, and it's flexible. It opens and shuts. When we don't protect the things that are most important to us or tell the truth about how we feel when somebody pushes against a boundary, we end up feeling depleted, angry, or resentful. Directly saying no and drawing a boundary isn't just about protecting ourselves. It's about allowing people to get to know who we really are. The more honest we are about what works for us and what doesn't work for us, the less we are going to do things that we don't want to do, and the better we're going to feel. You'll have more energy, you'll feel understood, you'll be less resentful, and you'll be less exhausted. And you'll have healthy, functional, mutually fulfilling relationships. Let me know if that's something that you want in your life. Let me know in the chat area. Give me like a yes if you want to feel more energy, less resentful, less exhausted. Oh my God. I mean, I grew up with the model of let's do everything for everybody and then just be pissed off. So we got a heck yes. Thank you, Eric. So let's talk about what type of boundary setter you are. When you know you need to set a boundary with someone, and I'm going to say 1, 2, or 3, and I want you to write in the chat whether you are a 1, a 2, or a 3. Do you avoid it at all costs? That's number 1. Do you set it, but don't enforce it when people don't listen? Or number 3, you set a clear boundary. So number 1, you avoid it at all costs. Number 2, you can set boundaries, but not enforce them. And number 3, you know how to set clear boundaries. Which one are you? We've got some 1s. Avoiding boundaries. We got a 2. We got 1 and 2. We got a 2. So thank you, everyone, for participating. I'm going to have another question in a minute. I find that a lot of people set boundaries, but they don't know how to enforce them. It's one of the hardest things to do. What emotions come up for you when you think about setting boundaries? Do you have anxiety? Do you have fear, dread? Let me know in the chat. We have fear from Susan. Anybody feel anxious, afraid? They just dread boundaries, fear and anxiety, says Lisa. Anxious and dread, anxiety. So thank you for participating. Oh, nauseous too, stressful. Thank you, Ellen. Yeah, lots of fear and lots of feelings come up. And if you think that your emotions might be sabotaging your ability to express your preferences, your desires, and your deal breakers in life, you're absolutely right. So I have another question for you. How many of these describe you? And I'm going to come up with 5 this time. Number 1, I usually think about what the other person wants or needs first, and I give up what's important to me. Any ones here? A lot of people tend to be other focused. We've got Susan, Lisa, Janice. That's usually how we were raised, to put others first. Number 2, when I set boundaries, people often wear me down till they get their way. Any 2s here? We had some 2s before with the set it but can't enforce it. We got Laureen is a 2, Susan's a 2. 2 sometimes, Eric. Okay. And number 3, it's difficult for me to say no, so I agree to do things because I don't want to upset people. Tina's a 3. Lisa's a 3. Susan's a 3. So helpful to get feedback from you guys. Susan, all of them. Eric, 3 sometimes. Rudy, 2 and sometimes 3. Okay. Number 4, I'm a giver, but then I get resentful when people don't give back. Any 4s? And I was a massive 4 most of my life. I would be the one who showed up to say yes and volunteer for everything. I would take care of everybody, but very rarely did I get back what I put in. 4 is more accurate, says Tina. Anybody else a 4? The givers who don't get back what they give in. Boundaries challenging, most especially with our children. Long-term sick husband trying to make up for that. Laureen. Yes, I'm sorry that you have these challenges. But yeah, children, family members is where this shows up a lot. And number 5, in my professional life, I struggle with speaking up and setting boundaries with difficult people. Any 5s in your professional life? We have 5 from Susan, Ellen, couple of fives here. So any one of these things, 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5, can lead to exhaustion and depletion. More than one, resentment and feeling disempowered. We need better boundaries, right? Boundaries are for everyone, especially those of you who are worn out from overgiving, overdoing, and even overfeeling. Playing small and not standing up for your needs at work or at home or in your love life can really take a toll. But it's not your fault because nobody teaches us about boundaries. In fact, we live in a world that teaches us to give up our needs and wants and feelings, to put other people's needs first. Self-sacrifice is supposed to be a good thing. We're taught that it's mean or harsh to set boundaries. Anybody here think it's mean to set boundaries? I hear this all the time, but I want to be nice to people and it's mean to set a boundary. I remember when my father and my mother and father got divorced right when I was getting married. And my father started calling me every day and telling me how horrible my mother was. That's a big boundary violation. I didn't know the word for boundaries, but I knew how I felt. I felt violated. I felt it was not okay. And I told him, if you continue to talk this way to me, I will hang up the phone. That was a first for me because, my parents had violated boundaries in the past, but I didn't know what to do. And so that was the power I had to hang up. And this was before caller ID. This was before cell phones. This was like in the 1980s. And I would hang up and then he would call back really angry and I'd hang up again. He should have been taking that to a therapist or even a friend, but not to his daughter. And so I could have said to him, don't talk to me that way. And he could have still talked to me that way. But if I didn't do anything to protect my boundaries, he would have continued to treat me this way. And over time, he stopped. So I felt bad. You're supposed to honor your parents, right? You're supposed to do whatever you can to be kind to your parents, but not when they're unkind to you. I'm a big believer in that. And so boundaries are not mean. And chances are that if you're a people pleaser and you allow other people to walk over you, then it's probably been happening for a long time, probably since childhood. And it's time to break this cycle and set healthy boundaries. So right now, so I have a gift for you, and I'll talk about that in a little bit. But so I'm going to be giving you some ways to set boundaries. But right now, I'm going to open up to coach, and I just got a private request for coaching from Laureen. So Laureen, let me take your question, and you can unmute yourself. Yes, post your questions now, and I will guide a few of you until the half hour. So, Laureen.
Hello, can you hear
Hi,
me?
I can hear
Hi,
you.
and see me. Welcome. Hi.
Hi.
I don't even know where to begin. Um, uh, I'm a married woman, 32 years. My husband is in his 9th year post-diagnosis with young onset dementia, diagnosed at 52 in 2014. We
Mm.
have 3 children, almost 30, almost 28, and just turned 20. And I've basically been a single parent all these years, and I can't even describe the stress that I live under. I also have a professional career as an opera singer with the Lyric Opera of Chicago for 35 years. So trying to juggle being a caregiver, being a parent, being the sole responsible person for a family of 5. I'm horrendous with boundaries. I'm learning and growing, but I don't know if you might have any advice for me.
Where do you struggle the most with the boundaries?
Mostly with my children. We happen to be financially okay because my husband was a successful dentist. And so, like, even my almost 30 and almost 28-year-olds are still on my dole. And yet, when I want some emotional support or some physical support, they're just not capable of doing it. As we speak, my eldest daughter is camping the Camino de Santiago trail in Spain, which happens to be on my bucket list. And I'm so thrilled and to be able to give better to my children than what I had, but they're so used to it that they have no concept of what it's like to be at home day after day after day, watching my husband die a brain cell at a time. Another quick example, Memorial Weekend, we were supposed to go away to a lake house. My husband was deemed too sick to travel. He has a horrendous bed sore and he was dehydrated and like he's near the end of his life. I chose to stay at home with my husband. Two of my three kids chose to go to the lake house. And again, my husband and I, we want them to live, we want them to enjoy life, but I also don't want them to look back and have regrets because the time is ticking for my husband's life.
It
So it's
sounds,
financial boundaries a lot, and then like emotional support boundaries.
yeah, that it sounds really, really challenging. And I, I, let's start with the financial boundaries because those are in your control. And I would say it's time for a conversation around what you're willing to give and not give. If you've given without any expectation, then it's time to have that conversation and to say, I've been giving you money and I've expected very little in return, or whatever it is, whatever your agreements have been. And now you're going to have a do-over. And, you realize that things have gotten out of hand. You are at wit's end, you are exhausted, and you really would love their emotional support, but you're willing to give X amount, and that's it. I mean, it's got to have a limit on it because the more you give without any limits, they don't have any reason to not keep asking.
I feel like I'm so close to the end because the 30-year-old just finally finished a master's degree and a professional educator license, starting her first real professional job in the fall. The 28-year-old is going to be finished with her master's degree in March. And so it's not like they're contributing members of society. They're doing wonderful, awesome things, but they're also well beyond the age where they should be covering themselves. So yes.
Yeah. So, when I had children living in my house way beyond the expiration date, and I started charging rent and I started charging for food, not because I needed the money, but because I wanted them to be responsible. So it's not because of need. And I think this is where we get confused too. I don't need your money, or it's not like I don't have the money. It's that it's not healthy for me or you to keep doing this. So here's what we're going to do, and sit down and figure out what works for you. And then you set the new rules, and the second part is for emotional support, just to let them know, ask for what you want and to say what you're observing, that, that you, just like you said here, that it's okay for them to have a life. You want them to have a life. You want them to do the things on your bucket list, but you also want to do the things on your bucket list. And so for now, with your husband being so ill and so close to death, that you would like for them to help more. And then just ask them, how can you support? Your children are not the emotional support. Our children should not be expected to be our emotional support fully, but they should be expected to be emotionally supportive in a tough situation. And the other thing that I also think is important to point out is that children, when given responsibility, that's what builds self-esteem. And I worked in a summer camp, a sleepaway camp, where every year the kids were given more responsibility and they got more freedom. They got more privileges. And so with responsibility come privileges, not you just get privileges without any contribution on your part. That is how we feel better in the world, that we have responsibility and then we get those privileges. So I think it's time for you to sit down, write down what you want, and make small changes, one step at a time, because this is a critical period for you. Okay?
Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome. Good luck.
Sandy, that was great. We have another question for you. So what about when you recognize your boundary late after consenting / agreeing to do something that, and then realizing you're not comfortable? She feels terrible backing out because I agreed or committed.
Okay, Susan, do you want to come on and give us a little more context?
Yeah, I recently found myself in a situation with my best friend who's been dating a man for about a year now, and she's kind of become very involved with him, and kind of I've sort of our friendship has kind of hurt for it because all of her attention and resources and time is going to him. And I have felt sort of along the way, or I recognize now that I've been kind of resentful of that and not fully owning it. So we hadn't had a conversation about it because I just really wasn't fully recognizing how I was feeling. But our friendship has been kind of continually put off for him. And then this spring, she wanted to throw this huge 50th surprise birthday party for him in Palm Springs. And she, wanted to rent an Airbnb and get all her friends to commit to this party. And I just said yes. I was like, of course, yes, I'd love to join. But it was going to be a big financial commitment. And everyone was going to split the cost of the house. About a month later, I ran into some financial difficulties, unexpected. And it kind of was like one thing after another. And I did tell her, hey, I can't go. So I was successful to some degree in saying, recognizing, I just can't go. And we sat down and I told her, I was like, it's just the food and drinks and the flights, all that, I can't afford to go. But then because I felt bad and guilty, I said, but I will cover my spot for the Airbnb, which was, several $100s. And I really actually couldn't even really do that. And she was like, okay, great. Thank you so much. And then when the trip came, a friend of mine offered to cover a little bit for me. But she kind of kept insisting that I was going to cover this spot. And then after the trip, she came to me and said, hey, I've been really trying to be sensitive to your financial situation, but the remainder is, X amount. And it was still several $100s. And in that moment, I felt really angry. And I really realized that I wasn't okay with the situation. And so I finally stood up for myself and I felt horrible. But I said, I'm not going to pay. And she got really upset. And we're not talking to each other right now. But I told her, I said, I'm really sorry. I recognize my boundaries too late, but I don't want to pay for a trip I couldn't go on. And you knew that I couldn't go because of financial reasons. And she basically told me, you committed, you don't respect our friendship. This was your word, you can't back out now. And so I finally said, okay, I'll pay you half. And then we're both out the same amount of money. But it was just, I've continued to feel guilty, like I shouldn't have backed out. And I guess I've just been struggling with the fact that I didn't recognize my boundary until way late. And yeah, I guess I'm just not sure what to do with that.
Yeah, so this is a tough situation because you made a commitment, you then changed the commitment because you recognized that you couldn't afford it. And at that point, saying nothing else, like I'm not covering the Airbnb, would have been the right thing to do. But we all make mistakes. Like when you're used to the auto yes, and let me know in the chat, guys, like seriously, how many of us have said yes when we mean no? Like, hello. It's hard to take it back. And so there's that. And I get it. And it's extremely upsetting to now be stuck with this guilty feeling. So the guilt is the thing that you can do something about. I would say if you could reframe the guilt as I made a mistake. This is a great boundary lesson for me. And what I'll do differently next time is pause. The pause is such an important thing. And one of the things that you're going to get as my free gift is a cheat sheet for quick boundaries in your back pocket. And one of the boundaries is, let me think about that. I have a policy that I need to think for 24 hours before making decisions. And if you give yourself space, because we often feel pressure to say yes to people. And if you give yourself space, you're probably going to make choices that are more aligned with who you are and not feeling obligated to somebody else. A lot of times boundaries are learned the hard way. You know, I've had boundaries at work where I didn't have the right contract and somebody screwed me over and I ate it. You know, I ate the thousands of dollars that I lost because it was a life lesson. And so if you can stop beating yourself up, hopefully, and realize that sometimes we need to kind of be hit in the head to learn a boundary and to learn to set better boundaries. And it's a good thing because that we sometimes just need that to be a catalyst.
Do you have advice on or coaching around like how you would talk to your friend or my friend in this situation to tell her like, you know, this is what happened for me. Like, I'm sorry, you know, it didn't go the way that I had hoped, but you know, I did recognize I needed to draw a line.
I feel like you already said that to her, that, you know, the fact that she shut you out is more on her. The fact that she's not open to having more of a discussion on this and preserve the friendship and allow the friendship to be ruined over something like this shows a lack of compassion and her not allowing forgiveness. And that's a shame. I've lost friends like that too. But you know, one of the things I'm also offering is coaching. So if anybody needs coaching on a specific situation, I am offering a discounted session. So I think that, you know, in your case, you've done it, you've had the discussion, and I think in the future, you know, it's a good life lesson, and you also learn who your friends are in situations like this, unfortunately.
Yeah. Thanks, Sandy.
All right,
Appreciate
you're
it.
welcome, Susan. Okay, so I am I'm going to hand it over to Scarlett. I hope this was helpful. Let me know in the chat if you recognized any of your own situations in the two coaching situations that we just had. I find that, you know, hearing other people is really helpful. Oh, thank you, Lisa. Lisa, can you stay for an extra second? Lisa's somebody who's worked with both of us, and we just wanted to have you come on for a second. You're here? Can you stay on for a second?
That's me talking. It's Scarlett.
Oh, did she go?
Lisa said she had to run because she was at someone's house and they were leaving for a hike.
Oh, okay. All right.
I know, it's a bummer.
So Lisa's one of my clients who has worked with Scarlett. I've had many of my dating coaching clients work with Scarlett because it's life-changing to you know, to have somebody work with you and help you feel your best. So I'm going to bring Scarlett on, and let me add a pin here. This is Scarlett, the amazing Scarlett. She is a personal wardrobe stylist. She shows women how to create fabulous customized outfits. Scarlett, do you sometimes work with men too? Because we have a man here.
Yes, Eric. Everything else. Yeah, I do work with men too, but it's nowhere on my social media. It's nowhere on my website. But yes.
Okay. And I work with men as well, and mostly women, but I've worked with men to help them find love. And I also work with people in business to help them set boundaries and communicate and get better at all the things that we talk about, because relationships are relationships. But let's get back to Scarlett. So she helps people customize outfits regardless of their size, their age, so they can show up to anything on their calendar with confidence. She guides them to create their own unique signature style, which is so important because so many stylists out there are like one size fits all. And she helps them feel fearless and confident to be seen and heard and excited to put themselves out in the world, which is life-changing. So Scarlett, take it away.
Thank you. All right. So many women hate shopping and they really struggle with finding clothes that are right for them. And it sometimes causes them to turn down invitations get migraine headaches when they really don't have one, or stomach aches or stomach viruses when they really don't have one, because they're looking for reasons to avoid going out to networking events, even speaking and experiencing fun, getting back into the dating world, just getting back into the world. It's sometimes easier to say no. And the number one issue that I see with women getting stressed out when they open their closet is they have no idea what to wear, right? And the root cause of that frustration is you likely don't know what your unique personal style is. And there are 3 common reasons why this happens. One, maybe not Eric, but everybody else can kind of relate to, is that your body has changed and you have no idea what to wear for the body you have now. Sandy, I'm going to digress for a minute. I don't think I'm spotlighted. So I only see you, but let me know. So you know how sometimes our body has moved in different parts than it used to be? Like sometimes things go east and west or south, or there's more of it in places that it wasn't before. I mean, it happens. Our bodies shift, our contents shift. But it's really important that when you are wearing or buying clothes, you are wearing the ones that fit the body you have now. Not the one that you long for or that you mourn for, but the one that you have now. And when you're wearing clothes that fit the body you have now, you're going to find yourself not playing with the clothes. So I came back from a trip a few days ago, and I was at the gate waiting to board my flight. And I noticed a lot of women who had on like cardigans, or I call them toppers, things to go over something else. And they kept playing with it. They kept touching and touching and touching and touching because they're trying to cover up the stomach or their chest area. Or there's just something, or things are falling off. They're fidgeting like crazy. And all I can see is the fidgeting. And if you're on a date and you're constantly fidgeting, it's distracting. If you are speaking and you're fidgeting, then people don't have no idea what you're saying anymore, because all they see is this stuff. So if you're wearing clothes that fit you properly, there's no reason to readjust as the hour of the day goes on. It's where it should be. So it's really important to buy and wear the clothes that fit you as you are now. Forget the whole thing about, well, if I wear this, it'll motivate me to get back into that size. No, actually what it's going to do is make you uncomfortable, make you self-conscious, and it's going to make you play with your clothes and touch everything. And that's very distracting. And it gets to you. If you're constantly worrying about how something fits, you're setting yourself up to feel badly about yourself, right? So if you're playing with your clothes, the fit is wrong. If you're wearing something that's too small, it's going to make you look bigger. And if you're wearing something that's too big, it's going to make you look bigger. So it's important to get clothes that fit you as you are now, and you will actually feel better and a lot less self-conscious. You know what I mean? Right? So the second reason that you open up your closet and have no idea what to wear is, well, you keep buying the wrong clothes, right? You're buying something because you can get it on, you can close it, you can zip it, you can button it, but is it making you feel good? Right? You need to buy something because it makes you feel good, not I'm grateful that I can get it on me. That's the wrong reason to buy something. I always tell my clients, when you look in the mirror, when you try something on, what's your first reaction? If your first reaction is, I look good, I feel good, that's a reason to buy it. If your first reaction is, well, if I lose some weight, I guess it'll work, or, well, it's just something new and it's a good deal, so I'll just get it because I got it on. That's not a reason, because you're not going to be excited to ever put that on. So I have a client who is surprisingly not on this session, because she tends everything. She had tons of clothes when I first met her, tons of clothes. They were beautiful clothes, absolutely beautiful, but they weren't beautiful on her. They were wrong for her. So what happened was, and then she would get caught up into sales too, right? Because they would have a big sale in the store and she'd buy more of it. And again, they were very pretty clothes, but they didn't like they weren't the right colors for her. They weren't the right style for her. They weren't the right fit for her. And that's why she kept buying more, because she never liked what she had. So she thought she had to buy more of it, right? The truth of the matter is, if you buy the pieces that are right for you, and then they can be all combined in new ways, you can have tons of outfits. You don't have to keep buying more of the same. So don't buy the pair of pants that fit you in gray and khaki and navy and whatever other color they have as well, because you're just going to have more of the same thing that's not that great. And besides that, how often do you really wear gray pants, right? So you don't need it. So it's the color, the styles, and the details that are important, not the quantity, and not whether or not you can just get it over your stomach. That's not enough reason to buy something. The third reason women have a hard time having something to wear is they're shopping at the wrong stores, right? So if you tend to frequent a particular store and you look into your closet and you don't really like what's in there and you can't put something together and you just feel compelled to go out and buy again, don't go back to that store. Because if it was so great, you would already have everything in your closet that you need. You need to experiment. You need to try different things. You need to try different stores, different manufacturers, different sizes, right? Don't get stuck on the number. Try a size up. Sometimes you have to try a size down. But don't go back to the very same store or manufacturer, like a label, that is making you like have to go out and buy more because you already have something and it's not working. You need to expand. So an example is I have a sister-in-law who I adore. We're like sisters. And I was visiting her and my brother last week, and she's very specific in what she likes, very specific. Yet she is complaining that she wants some new clothes because she's, only has a few things that she really likes. And so I would show her something, and she's getting free help at this point, right? And I would show her something and she said, no, I don't like that. So I showed her this very pretty white blouse, had some buttons here and had a lot of cinching at the waist area and the back. And I showed this to her and she said, no, I don't like all that stuff. So I said, well, take all that stuff in the dressing room and try it on anyway. And you know what? She loved it, but she prejudged it. So be willing to experiment a little bit at a different store, a different piece of clothing. Just because it doesn't look so great on the hanger, doesn't mean it's not going to look great on you. So you have to be willing to experiment a little bit. That was, by the way, Nordstrom Rack that we were at. So, very, low price stuff, good deals. But you have to be willing to try different stores and try different styles on. That's the way you can really start to get a wardrobe that works for you, makes you happy. Because everything that I do for my clients and I talk about is the confidence you get when you're wearing clothes that fit you properly and make you feel good. So when you know those three things, you'll be able to get, the way to go. The stores change the sizes, change what you're buying. When you know them, you're going to be able to get dressed faster and look and feel more put together and more confident. You'll definitely come across as more successful, which is really important in business. So for a lot of my clients, many of whom have worked with Sandy, for the dating clients, they just wanted help so that they would have an outfit that would make people stop swiping on the apps for dating. It's that important in every part of our lives about what we wear, because it can stop the swipe. It can stop somebody from choosing somebody else to hire and will choose you instead. It can stop somebody else from choosing somebody else as a speaker for an event and choose you instead. When you're working, you need to be dressed in a way that makes you look like the expert that you are. So people hire you for that expertise. When you're going out, if you're not working anymore, or you're just, grandmother taking care of your kids, whatever it is you're doing, you deserve to look and feel confident. And that only happens when you're wearing clothes that fit you properly and make you excited to get dressed. It's really important. So I want you to know that when you know the specifics of what's right for you, you're going to discover that there is nothing wrong with you. There's something wrong with the clothes you've been wearing and buying. I have clients who are a size 6. I have clients who are a size 26. Just because one is a larger size than the other does not mean she doesn't dress beautifully. Just because you're a teeny tiny person does not mean you dress beautifully. Whatever size you are, when you're wearing the clothes that are right for you, you will look and feel fabulous. So don't think it's about the size. It's always about the clothes. So personalized outfits, regardless of your size or age, is absolutely positive. It's confidence, all there. Totally there. You can make more money. You can get better clients. You can have more fun in life when you're wearing clothes that make you feel good. Right? So feeling stressed out, insecure about anything about yourself is not necessary. You don't have to do it. And I just want you to know that you also don't have to be uncomfortable to be wearing clothes that look great on you. I am as comfortable now as if I was wearing my pajamas. And by the way, if somebody ever walks up to you and says, "You look comfortable," that's not a compliment. So just know that you don't have to look comfortable, but you can be comfortable. And the options are out there now. So Sandy will put in the comment section, I'm offering you a free guide to help you end your closet shame, to help you break up with the clothes that are doing you wrong, to help you identify the ones in your closet you need to say goodbye to. You need to set up some boundaries and get rid of them. You need to know what works for you and what doesn't. And if anybody has any questions, I know I covered a lot, but before I close my talk, I just, anything you want to ask me, let me know. I just do want to say to you that you risk living in personal style vagueness unless you know the specifics that are right for you. And what happens in vagueness stays in vagueness. Any questions? Shocking. Absolutely shocking. So let me just say, because I see some people already taking advantage of that offer. For the first, we had 120 something people sign up today, so there will be a replay. But for the first 7 who sign up today and from the replay, I will offer you a 30-minute call with me. And as a bonus, I'm going to help, I'm going to show you, not help you, I'm going to show you what neckline is your best neckline. Because it's the little details that make a huge difference. And I have changed people's entire way of buying and looking at clothes by showing them the details that are right for them. And the neckline is a really important one. It can make us look thinner. It can make us look, bring out our features more. It can make us look younger. It can make us look more put together. So the little things really make a big difference. And I'm shocked, but okay. Usually
all the questions.
I'm bombarded usually. Listen, guys, it's not often that you get to ask somebody in person what to wear or what to buy or share your, so out of curiosity, what is something about your wardrobe that makes you happy? Does anybody have anything in their wardrobe that makes them happy? Or
we have
what makes you unhappy?
Deborah, you want to unmute yourself? You just at the bottom where the microphone is, you just click on that. Ellen says V necklines.
V necklines are nice for some people, not all people. The whole thing, I'm going to say this, the whole thing, if you wear a V neckline, you're going to look longer and, thinner and taller. No, it's not really necessarily true. It's all about people's personal proportions. So it's very unique. So there is no one size fits all.
Mm-hmm. And Lynette
orange
says
is a tough color. And if it's right for you, it's great. And by the way, it's orange weekends. So. And
Deborah's unmuted now.
Thanks. Yeah, I had typed in a question, but I'm like 4'10.5". So I always go to the petite department, but it's so hard to find petite clothes that are not so expensive because it seems like you don't get to pay regular prices that often in North Carolina anyway. And it's really hard for me to get fitted. And so I prefer to try on clothes if I can. But do you have any ideas? I usually wear business casual or, if I'm out day to day, just casual things, not at work. but it's just very hard to find very much variety that will actually fit me.
Yeah, yeah. So you're not alone. The petite world, most of my clients are petite. Maybe because, well, there's a lot of you and the stores are not reflecting that, right? And it is a big challenge. And, you know, I'm not going to say any bad language, but they're kind of screwing you over, the stores, because they're having less and less petites in the stores and it's all online. So I hear your pain. I understand that. So first of all, you're going to have to do more online shopping. You have no choice. And I recommend buying two of something, two sizes, so that you have the opportunity to see which one works for you. Because sometimes when you get something in the mail, by the time you go back to order a different size, it's gone already, you know? And Taylor has still decent petites. White House Black Market still has petites. Nordstrom still has petites. And Macy's still has petites. But you kind of have to go online. Also, you could experiment with, I mean, I have a client who is, you said 4'9", right?
4'10" and a half, yes.
4'10". Oh, you're towering. Okay. So she was, I think she's not was, she is like 4'9", if I remember correctly. And for her, I found her tunics that she could wear as dresses. So that's something to look at. You know, there are some very long tunics out there, which would be a perfect dress length for you. It'd still be to your knee. You know? So that's something to think about. It's a trick, but it worked, right? The other thing is you want to make sure you need to avoid cropped pants. That's something else you should avoid. You know, go for longer or go just to the knee, and that's it. And then also shorter tops with if you're wearing tops, you shouldn't wear a tunic itself. You should wear really a tunic only as a dress, but it does work. It's really cool. The other thing is, you said you wanted like reasonably priced stuff, right?
Yes.
Macy's is good for that. I'm all for using the filters when you shop, and you can put in your price range on the filters. And that helps too.
Yes.
Amazon, there's some things I find for my clients on Amazon as well.
I haven't seen very much on Amazon for petites, but yes.
Again, I know the stuff. So for me, it's not as overwhelming, you know, but it is an overwhelming process. That's why I always recommend using the filters whenever possible, you know. And then you need to really become very friendly with a good tailor. So one of the tricks I did once to get a good tailor was, there's a very expensive boutique near me. I mean, really expensive. And so when they would have their sidewalk sale, I would go to town, right? So one day I said, you know, I need a tailor. They would know a tailor. So I called up the store. Everybody can do this. Call up your local nice store and say, I bought something the other day. I need to have a tailor. Can you recommend a tailor? And they have a really good tailor. And the tailor that I found works out of her home. She costs less than the dry cleaner, and she's been a life changer for me. So that's just something you need to invest in tailoring to get the right fit. Otherwise, it's going to look like you're wearing, you know, oversized clothes, the wrong stuff, you know. And don't get caught up in fads or trends. You know,
I try not to do that, and I have heard about the tailoring quite a bit. I live in a very rural area, and so it is very, very hard to find anyone.
There's somebody there who can sew, believe me. You know, try doing that thing with the store, and the dry cleaners have people too, you know.
Okay.
But stick to the petite department and try that tunic trick. It's very cool.
I will. Thank you.
Thank you, Deborah. These are great tips. And I think we have a question from Lynette about tips to avoid sweating under the bust in hot weather or having sweat show under the bust line.
Well, I'll add her. Somebody, actually I have a client who has that problem, but once I found her the right fabrics, it isn't as much of a problem. So there are synthetic fabrics. One of them is called Model. It dries really fast and it feels very soft and is breathable. That's a great fabric to look for. The other thing is you have to have very lightweight fabrics. So you want to avoid any synthetics that can't breathe. That's why I mentioned Model. It's a real, it's a really good one. People think synthetics is cheap and that they're all can't breathe. It's not true. It used to be, but not true anymore. So I would try looking for a Model. And also you can do very lightweight pieces that you can take off immediately, like, you know, to put over a top. So there's I'm trying to think. I think it's on Facebook. I made a video about how to cover up your shoulders. It was a very sheer fabric, a little poncho. It's on Amazon for like $24, whatever. You can put that on. You can breathe. And if you do have any stains, it covers it up and no one would ever know it, but you're not going to get hot wearing it. But that's something very specific. I do a lot of, you know, research to find the right pieces for my clients. So I couldn't really recommend right now the pieces, but you just have to be mindful of the fabric. That's really the thing you have to be careful about right now. I also had a message to me directly, Sandy. Should I share that?
Oh, sure.
So apparently this woman is sharing that things on her body have changed. Welcome to the club. And let me find it. Hold on. I just lost it. Okay. So for plus size, you know, what kind of clothes I recommend for plus size and for losing weight. So there are some phenomenal pants out there that at all price ranges that are pull on, but they don't look like they're pull on. They're not our mom's pull on pants. Let's put it that way. And those are great for allowing you to still have a pair of pants that fit you as you lose weight. And if you can gain a little bit, it works for that too. So I highly recommend looking for elastic pants while you're going through a transition. They seriously do not look like leggings, and they do not look like the ones that our mothers and grandmothers used to wear. So I can promise you that. The second thing is, you know, look for things that have a little bit of seaming in them, which is really helpful. I'm a big proponent of something called princess seams. Those are seams that are in the clothes that have a little bit of a curve to them, and that helps give us a little bit of an hourglass shape. Another great thing to do to help you look thinner, or even make any outfit look great, is sometimes if you're wearing like a jacket, or as I said, I call them toppers, you can put a belt around your top or the dress and then put your jacket or topper over it. And now you have visually created a waistline, and you've actually made something that might be a little bit too big fit you for the time being. And then the jacket or topper, which should fit you properly, will make you have this shape underneath. So it's a little trick.
All right. Well, I think we should wrap at this point. Really appreciate all the people who came today and all the people who signed up. And I always like to end with takeaways. If you all don't mind just sharing a tip or two or something that you're taking away from today, because boundaries are important on the inside and how you look on the outside is equally important. We want to have holistically just have us all align with who we really are, who authentically we really are. So what are your takeaways? What are you taking away? Give us some feedback. We would love to hear from you. What are you taking away from the boundaries? What are you taking away from Scarlett's tips on what to wear? I know that when I started working with Scarlett, I definitely had less clothes in my closet and more clothes that I wear. I knew which colors would look good, including this one, and which ones did not look good. And, you know, so many of us tend to wear the same thing over and over. We keep buying the same black shirt. We all think black looks great on us. I mean, I know with the dating world that when you look online in the dating apps, the women are all wearing black for the most part. There's so little color. And color is important, but knowing the right colors. Scarlett is really, really good at what she does. And oops, what happened to you, Scarlett? Her picture. You just disappeared.
I'm still here. Don't know what happened.
All right, we're getting some feedback. Ellen says, know your limits and enforce them. Be creative and don't be afraid to take a risk when buying new clothes. Awesome. And Susan, if you're fussing or fidgeting, it's not the right piece of clothing. Exactly. You know, there's so many parallels. As Scarlett was talking, I was thinking, if something doesn't work, try something else. You know, don't keep repeating the same thing over and over. This is something I teach in my practice too. so many people will fish in the same pond for dates, you know, that they're just constantly looking in the same place. I know my son would date the women that he met at work. And I'm like, there's so many other women out there. Like, don't keep fishing in the same pond of crazy women. There are other women out there. So speak up with style, Lynette. I love it. We're going to do a do-over suggestion to course correct for boundaries, Susan. Thank you. That's such an important one. Rudy says, reminded that it's important to say no when it's the best response for me, and the fidgeting comment was helpful too. Yeah, I remember that. Thank you, everybody, for your comments. When I would go on a date and fidget, and it's just the worst. You know, you're wearing clothes that are too tight, or the pants come up too high and cut you in the stomach. And it's like, wear something a little bigger with more room that you feel good in, and you're going to feel better and look better. And all of it is just so important. And
Like
these
when
little
when you're wearing clothes that fit you, like if you're going out to dinner on a date or going to a wedding, you know, I always say you don't want to have to plan your meal waiting for something to explode. You know, you just want to be comfortable enough that you can actually have a piece of cake at the end of the day too. So, you know, so it's really important. You know, it's actually setting up a boundary for yourself. Don't make yourself restricted and, you know, fence yourself in literally by wearing clothes that are too tight or too small for you, because it's just only going to make you feel uncomfortable. And
exactly.
You know?
Yeah, and nobody cares what size you are. I love that. Scarlett always says nobody's looking at your size.
Yeah.
They look at how you look, and that's the most important
You
thing.
never get a compliment on what size you're wearing. You get a compliment on how great you'll look. Unless you're wearing your
Yes.
clothes inside out, nobody has to know what the size is.
So don't wear your clothes inside out. Janice says, I start shopping by looking at the color, then the fabric, next the style to see if I want to try it on. That's great. And Lynette, you're welcome. And Susan, you're welcome. So thank you all for joining us, and look for the replay email. It will have all those links. I also have boundary courses if somebody wants to go deeper, Boundary University, or if somebody wants to get on a call with me to talk about coaching, I also offer that. So all of that will be in the replay email. Thank you so much. Go out and set boundaries, go out and look amazing, and have a wonderful weekend.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.